These are a series of very expensive pens. They're worth a lot of money, but they're not worth near as much as Biden's Autopen was. You know, there's a multi-million-dollar business in getting pardons, and Biden gave out more pardons than just about anybody. We're going to explore that here. I'm going to take you through the scandal and give you the secrets of exactly how this scandal might be exposed. Stay tuned, watch till the end. Hi, my name is Ross McLean. This is the McLean Chronicles. I'm a former law enforcement agent, as well as having worked protecting a great national treasury. So I understand a thing or two about counterfeits. I also work for a global Fortune 50 technology company, and we were exposing counterfeit technologies, faked, made in China, put in the distribution chain from all around the world. So I understand a thing or two about how to authenticate something. And what I want to talk to you about today is the Biden pardon scandal. Now, in this video, I'm going to take you through three phases here. We're going to talk about what the scandal is, what the law is, and then, at the end, I'm going to give you the secrets as to how the Secret Service and the government may be able to look into this and see if these were authentic legislative pardons that were issued. Stay tuned. Subscribe if you like the channel. So what is the accusation about the Biden Autopen scandal? One is that it's apparent that Biden had lost his mental capacities. Exactly when? Many are saying now, and new books that are out are saying it's been years since he's had any real mental capacity. And of course, the issue of pardons was always a scandal with him. There was the talk about his son, Hunter Biden, and how he swore that he would never give a pardon to his son, Hunter. He also said he would never give any retroactive pardons for things that people might have done. He said he just wouldn't do that. But of course, in the end, Biden wrote more pardons than any president in the history of the presidency. Let's look at a couple of the numbers here. We had just straight pardons. Jimmy Carter did 566 pardons. Barack Obama, 212. Trump, last term, 144 pardons. Bill Clinton, 396. Reagan, 333. But Biden, we come to the Biden numbers, he issued over 1,500 pardons, 1,534 pardons during his presidency. That's the highest number for a single term. And there's a lot of suspicions about this as to who he gave them out to. On top of that, I'm not going to go into it, but he commuted apparently thousands of sentences for people. And the fear of everybody is this was done as a pay for play. But if Biden wasn't in charge of his capacities, who was giving out these pardons? And for what? Was anybody getting rich giving out these pardons? As I said, the pardon industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. People hire Washington lobbyists and lawyers, and they pay them millions of dollars to go and lobby the White House and get their name on that pardon list. It's big business. So anybody who would have control of being able to issue those pardons other than the president, and by the way, the Constitution says only the president is the one who can issue the pardons. They got a money-making machine worth more than all these pens put together. Who knows how much money could have been made from it? So let's start to look into this, though, as to how this scandal could have happened. First, let's look at the law. There was a court case on this, and it was determined that the Autopen could be used by a president under certain circumstances and doing certain things. This was because Obama needed to use that. At one point, he wasn't in the country. There was some provisions to the Patriot Act, I think it was, that needed to be signed, and he wasn't there. So he sent a written order, I believe, authorizing the use of the Autopen to sign the legislation. The courts ruled, after examining it all, that yes, the president can order the use of the Autopen for legislation if it is expressly done, meaning it is a clear expression that the president wants the Autopen used for legislation. I'm not talking about autographs, pictures for fans and people who write into the White House. For legislation we're looking at. So here's where the hook comes in. What do they mean by proven that he expressed it, that he wanted it done? Well, there's a number of ways that that could be done. One is you can have somebody come in and testify and say, I'm the chief of staff. The president told me directly that he wanted me to sign this, have this legislation signed by the Autopen, and I did it, and I will testify to that under oath, and I'll sign an affidavit, and I'll get it notarized that the president told me to do it. Well, that's one way to do it. The other is Obama did, is he actually sent a note or an email or some sort of direction that people could see that he clearly wanted that done. Now, other ways that this could be achieved is through having a logbook where the president signs off on which documents he wants done. You could record it visually if you wanted to. You could do a tape recording. I'm President so-and-so. I authorize the use of the Autopen for this document. That would certainly make it clear, although in the day and age of AI, who knows about that one? There also could be written forms in a written log, a series of authorizations that may have to be signed. Now, we don't know what the White House has for those, but you would assume that they've got some sort of authorization where the president signs off on that. It's logged, it's kept, and then there's the access to the Autopen. That's the next thing we need to talk about. So that's the law. The president can do it, but it needs to be proven that he gave his expressed permission for it to be used. And the big question here, in Biden's thousands, 1,500 pardons, did he give express permission for each one of those to be used? And if he did, some may argue, was he even of the mental capacity to be able to do it? So these are some of the questions that we're coming up to. Let's take a tighter look at this. First, let's look at the fact that there may be a number of Autopens that are in the White House. And, we don't even know which model is used. There's one famous company that has their name on it. They have a device that basically could write with the Sharpie or any pen that you wanted to sign something. There'll be other ones that use a digital signature, that print a digital signature on the documents. It's not known which one is used by the White House. But I'm going to suggest to you that they probably have multiple ones used there. They'll have a signature that's used for mass emails out to supporters, campaign things. They'll have another one perhaps that's done for personal letters and correspondence, where the president does have time to sign them all, so it's used, authorized for that. But of course, the big one we're talking about is the one used for signing legislation. Now, I'm going to suggest, we don't know this, but I'm going to suggest there's a difference. And I'm going to tell you why, forensically, why there'd be a difference if there's multiple Autopens that are there. And the Secret Service is in an excellent position to be able to deal with this. There was the official correspondence secretary for Bill Clinton, who apparently at one time gave out the quote that claimed that the Autopen was the second most protected thing in the White House after the president. That's kind of the anecdotal talk that goes on about recognizing how secure the Autopen or pens can be. But let's look at the way the Secret Service could protect these Autopens. They're, of course, responsible for the whole White House. Well, number one, you could have the Autopen in a secure room. That secure room would require access credentials to get in. It may be done by card. It may be done by biometrics, an eye, a fingerprint, a voice print, something like that. It may also be done by having to be done with dual custody. For instance, two people have to come up and put their thumbprints on or their eyeballs up at the same time before it will unlock. And it records that both people were there and it was unlocked. You could, of course, have the Autopen under constant video surveillance. So it's sitting there, so there's an audible record of when it was used. Now, the device itself may contain the same sort of controls. Passwords, dual password, dual custody, thumbprint, even goes so far as geolocation. So if someone was to take the Autopen machine, they do make portable versions of them, and they took it home to go do up some documents, that the device would recognize that it wasn't in the proper location for being able to do it and wouldn't operate. So these are some of the different ways that the physical access could be controlled and audited to the Autopen to see who used it and when and on what dates. And you tie that to the log of the express permission of the president. We'll have to see what combination is put in place for those for the Autopen at the Biden White House and see if it was just accessible. I want to make a joke here about a bag of cocaine being found next to it, but I won't do that. Let's get back to the more serious points here. What other techniques are available to the Secret Service to protect the signature and the integrity of the Autopen and the signing of legislation according to the Constitution? Well, let's not forget, they're also in charge of something called the treasury and making sure that none of the American dollar bills get counterfeited. Well, what are some of the tricks that the treasury uses to make sure that doesn't happen that could also apply to the Autopen? Well, one of them for sure is going to be the ink that's used to print. People don't know this necessarily, but I guess you'd know if you had one of these expensive pens and you buy them and you use them. You have to get special ink from Mont Blanc. You get the Mont Blanc ink and all the other sort of things so it works well on the pen. But did you know that you can put a chemical pattern, a signature, into each of the inks so that only microscopically and digitally, by looking at it, can you see that the ink actually contains certain elements that were specifically put into that ink that won't be in other inks? That's something the Secret Service could have done. So for instance, if there's another Autopen that is signing autographs, pictures, mass mailings for people, you don't put that ink in those Autopens. Therefore, when you have a piece of legislation or a pardon and you want to see if it was signed correctly with the right one, you can just forensically look at the ink and see if that is the ink that was put into the official Autopen. And you can marry that, of course, with the logs. You know, we've seen a lot of that. Remember on Pawn Stars? You go and you get an autograph. Here's an autograph with Ronald Reagan on it right here. They'd always bring the experts in and they'd have a look and they'd say, oh, that's live ink. This is the type of ink. This is the type of paper. These are the sort of things that can be looked at by the Secret Service. Did they use a specific type of paper with a pattern in it, a hidden pattern that one wouldn't see, that says that this is the official paper for doing legislations and pardons? Will they be able to tell by the paper? Interesting question. I don't see why they wouldn't have done that, so you can make sure there's no abuse of the Autopen. It'd also be interesting if that was done by past White Houses, but not done by the Biden White House or discontinued. So we have things on the dollars. You've got the ink, you've got the paper. It's one of the ways to do it. You know, another way you can do it is something called microprinting in microdots. So if it was a digital version of the signature, it could also, as it's making it, put on little specific tiny dots in something that is not visible to the naked eye in a specific place on the signature. You could then look at that and see if those microdots are there. If they're not there, you know it wasn't done by the official Autopen. So there's a myriad of ways that the Secret Service can authenticate something and they stop them from being forged or counterfeited. Now, the average person isn't going to know that if they're just rattling off, sneaking into the Autopen room and printing off pardons and getting paid for them. But we need an investigation to find that out. Another simple trick that could be used with the Autopens is you make a slightly different signature between the official Autopen for legislation and the one for signing letters or fan mail or whatever else it's going to be. The signature could be slightly different in form. It could have even a different name on it. Ronald Reagan had one Autopen done up that would use his nickname Dutch that he would want to sign to some people to make things look a little bit more personal. So once again, if someone used the other Autopen that wasn't the official one, you'd be able to tell if these protections are in place. You know, some of these Biden pardons were very controversial. These are people that would not normally be benefiting, one would think, from a presidential pardon. Let me give you just a couple of the cases here. Of course, Hunter Biden was an interesting one that he gave it to his son, decided it at the last minute. I got no doubt he probably expressly put that one on there, but was it actually signed correctly? Who knows? Another one here was a former judge named Michael Conahan. He was a Pennsylvania judge who was pardoned for his role in Kids for Cash. Yeah, he used to get millions in kickbacks by sentencing people to private jails, a kickback from the private jails. He was given a pardon. Another Democratic insider Jerry Lundergan, a Kentucky Democrat, was pardoned for funneling $200,000 in illegal contributions to his daughter's failed Senate campaign. You know, Adrian Peeler, he was convicted of executing, oh my goodness, he was convicted of executing a mother and her 8-year-old son in a drug-related hit. His sentence was commuted, not pardoned, but the public discourse often conflates the two. You know, I haven't looked into yet the commutations. There probably needs to be an official document for the commutations. There was lots of those given out by Biden, lots of them. He gave over 8,000 of those acts of clemency. 8,000 of them? Did he sign 8,000 of them? Did he expressly say that he wanted each one of these people done? Or was it just done en masse? I think investigation needs to be done. I mean, this is about as important as it gets to the Constitution and who has the power to do what. It's the president's power alone to issue these pardons. And if he wasn't of the mental capacity, if he didn't authorize it, if a committee of people is being suggested these days were the ones who were deciding it, or if other people were profiting from how these were being done, there's certainly a trail there that could be found. The Secret Service could find it. It'll be interesting to see. Listen, thanks for joining me on this video. If you like what I'm able to tell you here and some of the ways I bring forward some interesting and different cases, please subscribe, follow, give me a comment. I look at my comments, I'll comment on some of them, not all of them, but thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you again. This is Ross McLean for the McLean Chronicles.